I watched my coworker walk into a meeting with our CEO holding my deck, my research and my strategy, and he introduced it like it came from the guys on the team. And the worst part, he smiled at me while he did it, like we had a cute little secret. So I did something that sounds insane, but if you've ever been talked over, dismissed, or called dramatic at work, you're going to understand exactly why I sat there, let him keep talking, and quietly handed the CEO one single printed page that ruined him in real time. Trust your gut, women, always. Let me take you back. I'm a woman in my early 30s, and when this happened, I was a senior analyst at a mid-sized tech company, big enough to have culture initiatives, small enough that the loudest man in the room could still bulldoze everyone and get away with it. I was good at my job, not, I think I'm good, like I had receipts. My projects shipped on time. I was the person other departments came to when they needed clarity, and I was the one quietly doing the mental labor of translating chaos into something leadership could actually use. You know that role. The one where you're basically the adult in the room, but you're not treated like it. And yes, I was the work mum for a few teammates. The one with the backup chargers and the spreadsheet templates and the emotional regulation, which is already exhausting. Then they hired him. Let's call him Kyle. Kyle had that very specific male coworker vibe where he was aggressively confident while being only vaguely competent. He wore slim-fit button-downs like they were armor. He had a standing desk he never stood at. And he said things like, let's take this offline, as if he invented the concept of talking later. At first, I tried to be fair. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt. I'm not the everyone is out to get me type, but within a month, my gut was doing that thing. Ladies, you know that feeling when someone smiles at you, but you can tell they don't actually respect you? That. Kyle and I were put on the same cross-functional initiative, something high visibility involving customer churn. Leadership wanted a turnaround plan, the kind of project that, if it went well, could lead to a promotion. If it went poorly, you'd be quietly blamed forever. The first red flag happened in our second meeting. I showed up in a cream blouse, black trousers, hair in a low bun, minimal makeup, because I was trying to look serious without looking like I was trying too hard. Women will understand that calculation. I presented a simple framework. I'd spent the weekend building it because that's what I do. I see a messy problem, I organize it, I make it digestible. Kyle leaned back in his chair, interrupted me mid-sentence and said, yeah, so what she's saying is basically we need to focus on retention levers. What I was saying was a lot more than that, but sure, boil it down into a buzzword and slap your name on it. I blinked and said calmly, actually, the retention levers are only one part. The sequencing matters. He grinned like I'd said something adorable. Right, totally. Love the passion. Love the passion. If you've never been told you're passionate when you're literally being factual, congratulations on your peaceful life. Later that day, he sent a recap email to leadership. And instead of OP outlined a framework, it was Kyle will drive the churn turnaround framework, team aligned, Kyle will drive, not we, not OP created. Kyle. My stomach dropped. It's such a small thing, right? But women know, small things become patterns. Patterns become careers that stall. I forwarded it to my friend Maya, who worked in a different department, with one line, am I being sensitive or is this weird? She replied instantly, not sensitive. Start documenting now. Documenting. The most unsexy survival skill women learn at work. So I started a folder. Date-stamped notes, email chains, version histories, meeting invites, everything, because I had a feeling I was going to need proof. And sure enough, Kyle escalated. He would ask me for a quick favor, like, hey, can you pull churn by cohort? You're so good with the data, which translated to do the hard work so he can present the conclusions. And when I'd sent him the analysis, he'd respond with, perfect, I'll polish it. Polish it. Ladies. He meant replace your name with mine, and any time I tried to speak up, he'd hit me with the classics. Don't take it personally. You're overthinking. We're on the same team. You're being a little intense. Intense, dramatic, emotional, bossy. Meanwhile, he could slam his laptop shut and say, "This is a disaster," and people would nod like he was Winston Churchill. I started going home exhausted, not from the work, but from the constant self-monitoring. If this sounds familiar, comment below. I know I'm not the only one. The project got bigger. Leadership wanted a full deck for the quarterly executive review. Slides, numbers, recommendations, projected impact, high stakes. My manager, Darren, was nice. The kind of manager who thinks he's progressive because he says things like, "I have 2 daughters," but still lets men interrupt women in meetings. Darren called me and Kyle into a planning session. Kyle strolled in 5 minutes late with a cold brew like he owned time itself. I was already there with an agenda printed out, like the over-prepared eldest daughter I am. Darren said, "Okay, we need something sharp for the exec review. Kyle, you'll present. OP, you're the numbers wizard, so you'll support." I smiled tightly. Support, not lead, not co-present. Support. I said, "I'm happy to present the data section since I built it and can answer questions quickly." Kyle laughed like I'd told a joke. No, it's okay. Executives like a single voice. I can handle questions." And Darren nodded. "Yeah, that's true. Let's keep it streamlined." Streamlined. So I became the ghostwriter of the deck that was about to get someone else promoted. I worked insane hours, like the kind of hours where you're heating leftover pasta at 11 p.m, mascara streaked because you forgot you were crying in the bathroom at 7 p.m, and your eyes feel gritty from staring at spreadsheets. I'd wake up with that cortisol surge, like I forgot something, then remember the something was Kyle. Meanwhile, Kyle did what Kyle did best. He talked. He'd pop into Slack with big ideas, then disappear when it was time to actually execute, and then return right before a deadline to align on the narrative. One night, around 9:30, he messaged me, "Need the updated churn drivers analysis tonight so I can review before tomorrow." I stared at my screen. My hands actually started shaking, not from fear, from rage, like my body knew before my brain did that this was wrong. I typed, "I can send it tomorrow morning, it's not urgent." He replied instantly, "It kind of is. Darren wants it first thing. Don't stress though, you've got this." Don't stress. I wanted to throw my laptop out the window, so I sent it. Because I didn't want the project to fail, because I knew if it failed, it would be pinned on me anyway, because women are trained to be reliable even when people are using us. The next day, in a meeting with Darren and a couple directors, Kyle shared his screen and presented my findings, word for word. Even my phrasing, even the little metaphor I used about leaks in the bucket. And then he said, "So I ran the analysis and what I found was..." I felt my face go hot. That heat behind your eyes when you're trying not to cry, not because you're sad, but because you're furious and trapped. I waited for Darren to correct him. He didn't. After the meeting, I pulled Darren aside. I tried to be calm, measured, professional. I used the voice women use when we're begging to be taken seriously. I said, "Hey, I noticed Kyle said he ran the analysis. I actually did that work, and I want to make sure credit is accurate." Darren gave me this pained little smile. "Yeah, I get it. But you know how Kyle is. He's just trying to keep momentum." I stared at him. Momentum or taking credit? Darren sighed, like I was making his day harder. "Let's not make it a thing. The work is what matters." The work is what matters. Ladies, I cannot tell you how many women have been robbed under that exact sentence, because the work doesn't get promoted. People do. That night I went to Maya's apartment with a bottle of wine, the kind of wine you buy when you're too tired to read labels. I sat on her couch, still in my work clothes, and I said, "I feel crazy, like maybe I'm being petty." Maya looked at me like I'd said the sky was green. "You're not crazy, you're being exploited." I started crying, ugly crying, not cute tears, the kind where your nose runs and you hate yourself for it. And Maya said something that stuck with me. "Stop trying to win through fairness, play defense." That was the turning point. Not because I wanted revenge, though yes, I wanted him to choke on his cold brew, but because I realized no one was going to save me. Darren wasn't. HR wouldn't. The system wouldn't. So I needed a plan. And I'm an analyst. I'm strategic. The executive review was in 2 weeks. Kyle would present to the C-suite, including our CEO, Elena, a sharp woman in her late 40s who did not suffer fools, but also didn't micromanage. The deck was basically done, but we were refining. Kyle asked me for final numbers and final visuals. So I started making subtle moves. First, I stopped sending Kyle fully polished deliverables. I sent drafts with clear labels. File names like OP Draft Churn Drivers V3. Slide footers that said, prepared by OP. Date. Second, I used tools that track version history. I made sure the original deck lived in a shared drive where edits were visible. I made sure my authorship was undeniable. Third, I scheduled a pre-read alignment meeting with Darren and Kyle, and I did it in writing. I said, for the exec review pre-read, I'd like to walk through the analysis sections I built so I can flag nuances and anticipated questions. I built, not we built, and Darren accepted in writing. Now here's the part that felt petty but was actually self-preservation. I created a single-page appendix just for me. It listed the core metrics, the assumptions, the risks, and the questions executives were likely to ask. And I included one section titled Data Sources and Owner, and under each dataset, Owner OP. My name everywhere in the most boring corporate format imaginable, because boring is credible. I printed it, put it in a folder, and I kept it in my bag like a weapon. The night before the exec review, Kyle called me. Not Slack. Called. He said, hey, quick thing. If they ask about cohort definitions, just let me answer. It's cleaner. I paused. If they ask about cohort definitions, I'm going to answer accurately. He chuckled. Relax, you're getting worked up again. Worked up? My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I'm not worked up, I'm prepared. He went quiet for a beat and then said, okay, see you tomorrow. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying scenarios. What if he steamrolled me again? What if I spoke up and they called me difficult? What if I stayed quiet and watched him take it? You know that awful mental math women do. How much of myself can I defend without being punished? In the morning, I got dressed like armor. Black blazer, white blouse, hair sleek, earrings simple, nothing that could be labeled distracting. Red lipstick, because I needed something that made me feel like me. And before I left, I looked in the mirror and said out loud, you are not crazy, you are not dramatic, you are correct. The executive review was in a glass conference room on the top floor, one of those rooms that always smells like expensive coffee and quiet power. Kyle sat near the front with his laptop. Darren sat to the side. I sat along the wall with the other supporting folks, because yes, the women were mostly along the wall. Eleanor, the CEO, walked in, calm, focused, no nonsense. She nodded at everyone and said, let's get into it. Kyle launched into the deck with the confidence of a man who had never once wondered if he deserved to be there. He said, so I've been digging into churn drivers, and what I found is... I felt that familiar heat rise again. He clicked to the slide with my framework. I created a model that shows our primary retention levers. Created. My fingers tightened around my pen. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. Eleanor listened, expression neutral, and then she asked the question I knew was coming, the question from my appendix. She said, what's the definition of at risk in this model, and how did you validate it? Kyle blinked, just once, then twice, and I watched it happen in real time. His confidence hit a wall of specifics. He said, at risk is, customers who show declining engagement. Eleanor didn't move. Declining relative to what baseline? Kyle glanced at Darren like Darren could save him. Darren looked at his laptop like it contained the meaning of life. Kyle tried to bluff. Relative to their historic usage, and also compared to peers. Elena tilted her head slightly. Okay, what's the threshold? What percentile shift triggers it? Kyle's face went a little shiny. He swallowed. And in that moment, I realized Kyle could talk forever, but he couldn't answer because he didn't do the work. Eleanor looked down the table. Who built this model? Silence. Thick, awful silence. Kyle opened his mouth, and I could almost see the lie forming. That's when I stood up, not dramatically, not angry, just standing. My legs felt like jelly, but my voice came out steady. I did. I'm happy to walk through the definitions and validation. Kyle whipped his head toward me. His eyes said, "How dare you?" Eleanor looked at me, interested. "Please." I walked to the screen, clicked back one slide, and explained, cleanly, concisely, like I'd practiced in my head for 2 weeks. I defined at risk. I explained the threshold. I explained the validation sample. I pointed out limitations before anyone could weaponize them. I answered follow-ups, and the room shifted. You could feel it, because competence has a gravity to it, real competence. Then Eleanor asked, why wasn't she presenting this section from the start? Kyle made a little sound like he was about to speak, but Elena held up a hand, still looking at the deck. Kyle, I'm asking you. Kyle forced a laugh that didn't match his face. Oh, I was just trying to streamline the narrative. She's very in the weeds. Very in the weeds. Ladies, if a man ever calls you in the weeds, when you're literally holding the project together, just know he's terrified you'll be seen. Elena turned to me. Is that true? You're in the weeds. My heart thumped once, hard, and I did the thing women are taught not to do. I told the truth plainly. I'm in the data because I built it. I also built most of the narrative behind the recommendations. I didn't say it with attitude. I said it like a fact. Then I reached into my folder and handed Eleanor the 1-page appendix. I also brought a summary with sources, assumptions, and owners in case it's helpful. Eleanor took it and scanned it. Kyle's face went pale. Not metaphorically, actually pale. Elena looked up. This is excellent, thank you. Then, still holding the page, she asked Kyle, why are you presenting work you didn't own? Kyle's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He tried, it was collaborative. Eleanor cut him off, not harshly, just decisively. Collaboration means shared credit and clear ownership. This doesn't look like that. And then she said the sentence that felt like oxygen rushing into my lungs. OP, you'll present the rest of the analysis sections. Kyle, you can support. Support. The word hit different when it landed on him. Kyle sat down slowly, like his body finally remembered gravity. And for the rest of the meeting, every time he tried to jump in, Eleanor redirected. Not once did she raise her voice. She didn't have to. Kyle had been exposed as a man built out of confidence and borrowed work. After the meeting, people filed out quietly. Darren lingered like he wanted to disappear into the carpet. Kyle walked past me and hissed under his breath, "You embarrassed me." I turned to him, still calm. "No, I declined to let you embarrass me." His eyes flashed like he wasn't used to women not shrinking. Here's what happened next. That afternoon, Eleanor emailed me directly, looping in Darren and HR, and asked for a follow-up session on the model. She also asked Darren to clarify ownership and presentation roles going forward. 2 days later, Darren scheduled a one-on-one with me. He looked uncomfortable, like he'd realized too late that neutrality is not kindness. He said, "I didn't realize Kyle was representing your work like that." I stared at him. "I told you." He nodded slowly. "You did." Then he offered me what I should have had all along, visibility, a lead role. And yes, he put me up for a promotion cycle that quarter. Kyle stopped making eye contact with me. He became very busy, very quiet, and within 2 months, he transferred to a different team where he couldn't hide behind my output anymore. I heard through the grapevine that his executive presence didn't help him much when executives started asking him, executive questions. And me? I didn't just get louder, I got smarter. I learned that being nice isn't the same as being respected. I learned that documentation is not petty, it's protection. I learned that the people who call you dramatic benefit when you stay silent. And most importantly, I learned to trust that gut feeling the first time it whispers, something is off. To all the women who've been minimized at work, talked over, credited less, or told to calm down while men sprint past you on your labor, this is me telling you, you're not imagining it. You deserve better. Don't settle. So that's my story. What would you have done? Would you have confronted him earlier or played it strategic like I did? Let me know in the comments. And if you're the woman sitting along the wall in the meeting right now, I see you. Take up space anyway.